What's up and welcome back to another video, guys. Today I'm going to be answering some of your questions. We'll be talking about what the next clone battle pack might be, the possibility of getting a phase 2 Wollfe, as well as some other possibilities for sets in 2026. So if you have any questions that you'd like me to answer in the next installment of this series, let me know down below in the comment section of this video and I'll try my best to get to them in the next episode. But without further ado, let's get right on into this video. Our first question for today comes from Psycho Gamer, and they ask, what do I think the next type of clone will be in the next battle pack? And after the 327th, there's a couple of different ways that I could see this going. First off, I think a 212th battle pack is one that's overdue, and one that would be pretty easy for LEGO to make, as they already have the 212th troopers on production, and it's one that fans have been asking for a long time, ever since that 2014 UTA Clone Trooper battle pack came out, and I think this would be the perfect opportunity. Now, I don't know if LEGO would, if they did this, would they go for just 4 of the normal 212th clone troopers, or would we get some of the 212th airborne troopers in there as well? Because the airborne troopers being very cool. The last one they got was in that Grievous's Starfighter, and I think that's like a $60 or $70 figure now because of that waist cape. And if we did see them again, they probably wouldn't have the waist cape, so a lot of people would be a little bit upset about that. So I think that would be a very interesting one to see, and I think that's a very likely one to see from LEGO. Now, yes, they could also just make some of a Clone Legion that we haven't gotten before. I think that would be sick, but I also think that that might not be something that LEGO is going to do. But I do think that there is a possibility to see one for the Galactic Marines if we end up getting those later this year, which we are really looking likely toward getting those in that Turbo Tank set. So I do think that there is also a high possibility to see them in a battle pack or a foil pack. But if I had to guess, I feel like the 212th are the most likely. Personally, if I could pick anything, it'd be a Wollfe pack battle pack, but I don't think that we're going to be seeing those in a battle pack in 2026. But I do think there's a possibility to see them soon, and that's something that we're going to be talking about a little bit later in this video. Mitcha asked, if LEGO could make one Star Wars set that hasn't been made before, what would I want it to be? And right now, I think one that would be very cool, it would be a droid landing craft. Like, it's the big ship. We've seen it in the Clone Wars and also in episode 2, and I think in episode 1, actually, not episode 2. And I think that that would make a very good set, in my opinion. I think it would be great. I know LEGO doesn't really focus on the Separatists that much right now, just because there's other stuff that sells better, but I do think that the Separatists have been at the short end of the stick, and I do think that Separatist themed sets would sell very well. There's so many people out there that want more sets with the droids, with the Separatists, and just with the Trade Federation and other stuff like that, and I think this would be the perfect opportunity. Now, there's two kind of colors for it. You can get like the brown kind of Trade Federation version, or the blue Clone Wars Separatist version. Personally, either way, I just think it's a cool ship and vehicle design, so I would be happy with either one, but I think that one would be very cool. You could have the whole part in the front that opens up to deploy your droids, and you can get some really cool droids, maybe some of the different molded ones that we haven't seen in a while. Like the tactical droid really needs to come back for LEGO. That only ever came out in that one Mace Windu Starfighter, and we've been so overdue to get another version. We could also get maybe like a new version of the Droideka in this set if it's based off of that first kind of arc in the Clone Wars with Yoda and the maroon kind of clone troopers. That would be so cool, and I would love to see LEGO make this into a set at some point. However, I very highly doubt it. Atlas says, what is the best May 4th promo? And this is one that I am working on a full video on right now, so if you're interested in my full breakdown, make sure to stay tuned for that. But it's one that I've been thinking about, because best doesn't necessarily mean my favorite, and I think my favorite definitely is the Darth Revan polybag. Darth Revan's such a cool character, and I'm a huge fan of the Old Republic, so I think that one's my favorite. But as for the best being something that's pretty subjective, but you kind of have to look, a lot of people either really love just the polybags with the minifigures, or people really like the sets. Most people like the polybags, the minifigures, but people are very kind of like 50-50 on that. But recently, LEGO's been giving us, the sets with the minifigures, which, combining the two, I would argue would be the best for everyone. So I feel like it would have to be one of those. And then personally, just out of the 3 that have been like a set and a minifigure, you have the Lars Homestead, the Trade Federation Troop Carrier, and then most recently the Camino Training Facility. I think I would argue that out of those 3, the Camino Training Facility might just be a little bit better, but I do think that the Trade Federation Troop Carrier is probably the best out of all of those, just personally, because I think it's really cool. But I'm not really sure what the best one is. My favorite one definitely has to be the Darth Revan polybag, and then probably followed up by the Shadow ARF Trooper. But let me know down below in the comments what your favorite one, or what you think the best one is. Max Rainier asks, why was the UTA cancelled? And I'm not sure if you're talking about that very, very old one that we saw like the prototypes of in that Lego book, or this most recent one. Now, if you're talking about the old one that actually was canceled, I don't have any idea. I'm not really sure. And if you're talking about this most recent one, it wasn't canceled. It just was a false rumor or false like leak kind of thing like that. The people that leaked it out, they probably saw that there were Galactic Marines and were like, okay, what makes the most sense with Galactic Marines? A UTA. So they slapped it all together and then shipped it out. That's kind of what you have to expect with those very early rumors. Like that was something that we had like a year in advance. We had probably over a year we had that information out. So it kind of makes sense that it would have been more speculation than actual truth. But that is kind of what happened. It's not that it was actually canceled. It's just the fact that it wasn't a UTA in the first place. And yeah, you can kind of speculate to why Lego didn't want to make a UTA with the Galactic Marines. Some people might just think that they were lazy, other stuff like that. And other people just think that a UTA probably wouldn't have sold as well as a turbo tank, but also looking toward the turbo tank build might not be the best, but that's not what I'm here to talk about. But yeah, the UTA was never actually canceled. It just wasn't the set to begin with. Siri Mole asks, what is a minifig that we have never gotten that I would want to see? And there's just so many cool characters out there in Star Wars that we've never actually gotten a minifigure for. And I mean, you didn't even specify Star Wars, but I'm going to keep my answer based on Star Wars. I think first off, a Wat Tambor would be very cool. I also think a Mayday from the Bad Batch would have been sick. I think he has a really cool design. I think in the Bad Batch alone, there's a lot of really cool characters, especially the clones like Fireball and Namek would have been very cool to get as well. But I think my one above all has to be a clone commando. We need a clone commando. It's been so long since we originally saw them, and Lego could cook some amazing sets that I'm sure everyone would love. People have wanted commandos for so long and we haven't gotten them yet, and I doubt that it would be hard for Lego to do. It's a very simple design, so I feel like it's just a matter of time, but I just think Lego has to make these commandos soon because I have no doubt that they would sell great, and it definitely is one of the #1 minifigures that I would want to see them make next. Helen asks, do I think that the turbo tank could still be good even if it is downsized as much as it's rumored to be? And yes, the short answer is yes. I do think it still has the possibility to be good, but when looking toward how downsized this potentially is going to be, looking at those rumored to be what the wheels are of this turbo tank, if that comes out to be true, how many wheels are on a turbo tank? I think like 4 on each side or 5 on each side. I'm not actually sure. And if each wheel is taking up like 10 to 13 pieces, you're using so much of your piece count on the wheels alone, and then the minifigures, and then what's left for the actual turbo tank. Now, a lot of people were saying that this isn't actually like a lore accurate turbo tank. It's kind of like an interpretation, which at that point, I guess makes kind of sense and would add up given, the tiny piece count. But I do think that this is a set where, we'll just have to wait and see the build. And I think that the highest like opportunity for this to be saved is the minifigures, because this is having a $160 price tag. So the build kind of, would have to be pretty good and make it worth that. And I do think that the minifigures here, the Commander Bakara, the Galactic Marines, and the Kiadi Mundi are kind of the one saving grace for this set. As of right now, it might get revealed and it might be like the coolest build that I've ever seen, but I really don't have high hopes if I'm being honest. But I think the minifigures could be very good, and I think they can be what redeems this set. And I'm just curious to see what ends up happening for this build, because it's changed like 4 times in the past in like the rumor and leak wheel. So I'm just curious to see what ends up happening, and make sure to stay tuned, because if we get images, I will definitely be making a video about that right away. So make sure you have the notifications on so you can see when I end up posting that video when the images get revealed. Brickboy301 asks, will there be a Phase 2 Wollfe and Gree in 2026? And I feel like not, because when I say this, people think it's me saying that we're definitely going to get them, but I feel like there's a high possibility, but it's not confirmed. I don't really know what's going on for 2026. We've had some leaks, and I am kind of looking at those because I want to make a video talking about it, but I don't just want a full video of speculation. But 2026, it's next year. We have some time. I do think we will be getting some more leaks and rumors for that coming up sooner and sooner as the year goes on, but to me, it makes sense. When looking toward the Skywalker Saga and the remade clone troopers that we've got in that game, you have the Captain Rex that we got, the Commander Cody that we got, the Commander Fox that we got, the Commander Wollfe that we haven't seen, and then the Commander Gree that we haven't seen. And I feel like if Lego continues down the track that they're going on, it only makes sense that we can assume that we're going to be getting a Commander Wollfe as well as the Commander Gree in maybe not 2026, but definitely in the years to come after. Now, personally, I would love to see them as soon as 2026, but it could also be a couple more years down the line. Now, I do think that we definitely will see them in the future at one point or another. I feel like it's only a matter of time. It's just a question of how long we'll end up having having to wait, and if it will be as soon as 2026 or if it will be more like 2028 or something like that. But I would love to see them sooner rather than later. I love Commander Wollfe and Commander Gree. I think Commander Gree is a super underrated clone trooper, and I think that we are overdue to see new versions of them in LEGO. Robert Hill asks, do I think that we'll ever get another Sandcrawler in UCS or Playscale? And personally, I don't think that we'll get another UCS Sandcrawler. I feel like that was kind of a one-off thing. However, I do think that that is kind of an overhated on UCS set. I understand it may not be like the most interesting out of things that we could have gotten for a UCS set, but I think it's very underrated. I think the box art is beautiful, and maybe that is what's kind of making my answer change a little bit here. But I also think that the build itself is a pretty good design. I think that the play features, there's some great play features, and just the overall look of it, I think it's pretty cool. Now, yes, it was very brittle, and I think if LEGO was to remake it, they definitely do it with their updated pieces, so it wouldn't be such a brittle build. But I do think that we'll definitely see a Playscale version first. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the Playscale Sandcrawlers, and I do think if we did get a new Playscale Sandcrawler, there would be a lot of people very unhappy at the fact that it's going to be at a $160 price point, and it will be very downsized compared to the last one, and people just get upset when they see that, even though, you know, it's just what LEGO does now. It's kind of what you have to expect, and I do think that we'll see one in the future. I don't know how soon, and I don't know if we would get another UCS one, but I feel like we'll definitely get a new playset at some point in the future. Real Ryan Fisher asks, any non-sequel LEGO Star Wars sets that I would never buy and the reason why? And I do think it's kind of funny that you have to specify non-sequel, because there's definitely some pretty bad sequel sets out there, but personally, there's not really many sets that I wouldn't buy at the right price. If something goes on a deep enough discount, I'd probably end up buying it, but I do think some of the sets that are really bad, that even if they were on some massive discounts I wouldn't buy, would definitely be some of those 4+ or 7+ sets like the Team Jedi Temple, also with like the Crimson Firehawk, the really bad ATST, and then the Snowspeeder as well. Those are just sets that I wouldn't buy, because I mean, I'm not the target audience. I think the builds are pretty atrocious, and the minifigures are pretty like mediocre as well. Actually, some of them have some pretty good minifigures, but I wouldn't just buy the set just for the minifigure when I can just straight up buy the minifigure. So that's my answer. It's kind of a cop-out answer. I'm sure that you wanted one of like the bigger sets that may have been a bit of a hot take, but honestly, I was thinking about this question for a while, looking through all of the sets, and there's not really any other sets out there that I just straight up never would buy. So I feel like that has to be the answer, but let me know down below in the comments if there's any sets that you would never buy. And also, if you have any questions you'd like me to answer in the next installment of this series, let me know down below in the comment section of this video, and I'll try my best to get to them in the next episode. Thank you all so much for watching, and thank you for everyone for asking a question. Stay safe. Drew signing out.